There is just one game remaining for the Orlando Magic, and their penultimate game went pretty much as you'd expect. So there's not a lot to say. We'll chat about that, plus Chuma Okeke and his finish to the season coming up on today's Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is April 8th, 2022. My name is Philip Rossreich. I'm the site expert and editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic fall to the Charlotte Hornets 128-101. We'll talk a little bit about that game. We'll go through the box scores we always do. And then we'll chat a little bit about Chuma Okeke and the way that he has closed his season, or the way he has developed over the course of the season as we get closer and closer to the end. Before we do any of that, though, we want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's right when we upload, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's on your way to work, on your way home to work, while you're working out, wherever you listen to us. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast for you covering every team in the NBA plus NFL, NHL, MLB, and college too. It is opening day after all, for the Rays at least. No matter who your team is, check it out. The Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. I've kind of said this. You know, I'm a very game-centered person. I value games. I look at games. They're data points. They're still the most important thing to me. There's a lot of people that may disagree with that philosophy, but games are still really important. At the end of the day, that's the only public information we get on how the team is doing and the input we get. And at the end of the day, when things matter, games are what's going to count. Nothing else is going to matter about whether you win or lose these basketball games. And so, I definitely approach games very much as really important things. But I will admit that this last couple weeks, this last maybe 2 weeks now, it's been easy to check out on these games. And if you missed Thursday's 128-101 loss to the Charlotte Hornets, I will not blame you. I was doing some work as well during the game. It was not a pretty game. There were good moments. Markelle Fultz is still really fun to watch. Jalen Suggs had some really nice moments. Chuma Okeke, we'll talk about him later. It was really good. But it's easy to see what the Magic are trying to do here. The Magic did clinch a top 6 pick in the draft with the loss on Thursday. So yay, I guess. They do have the top odds to win the NBA draft lottery. That was already wrapped up. It's guys are playing hard. You appreciate that. These guys, a lot of these guys are fighting for jobs. There's still this spirit of togetherness. This wasn't Sunday's loss to the Knicks. I think the Magic felt embarrassed by that loss. Just because they didn't play hard. They didn't play anywhere near the level that they played. I know they lost by 30 in that game, lose by 27 in this one. They did not play with anywhere near the level of intensity in that game that they did in this game. The margin of victory is not important. I've said a million times, wins and losses aren't important right now, but still, it's hard to find much meaning in anything we're seeing, and that's the honest truth here. Markelle Fultz's minutes are meaningful because he's playing largely with Jalen Suggs, with Chuma Okeke, with guys that are going to be part of this team or supposedly part of this team moving forward. When Suggs and Bamba came out of the game in the first quarter with the injuries, the Magic were up by 5. They'd gotten off to a really good start, and to me, I don't feel like I'm cherry picking too much, but to me, that was the most significant part of the game. The only other significant part was when the Magic opened the second half on an 8-0 run with their starting unit in. But, Jamal Mosley is not playing rotations to get his starters back in late in games. He's going with full bench units and with bench units. And this team is just very injury depleted right now. I mean, RJ Hampton was playing point guard for a good chunk of the game. And if there's one thing we've learned about RJ Hampton is that he is not a point guard. And so figuring out what is important and what isn't important in these games is still the biggest challenge. I've been big on this part of things. The Magic need to make these games meaningful. They still have to have purpose. They still have to be trying to accomplish something. They still need to be trying to find their identity. And again, the defense has completely let go of the rope at this point. The Magic are still a top 10 defense since January 1st, so a little bit more than half the season. I haven't checked where they are after the All-Star break. I imagine they're still top 10 after the All-Star break, but the defensive performances the last, New York, certainly the last 3 games, really the last maybe 5-6 games has just been atrocious and not what we expect. But at the same time, the best defenders on the team aren't playing, and they're not playing regular minutes. And I think, at long last, everyone started looking ahead to the end of the season. So there's just one more of these games left to go. I say it every time on my Magic Wands, on my game preview posts. I don't know what to expect from the Magic. I don't know how they're going to show up or what's going to be. And that's frankly the last 2 weeks of the season. Nat Moore of the Action Network used to always say, the first 2 weeks of the season, the last 2 weeks of the season are complete crapshoots. You don't know what's going to happen. You can't predict it. I know he works for the Action Network. He would say it's not worth betting. So when I read the BetOnline.net ad, save that stuff for the playoffs next week. That's how I feel. It's rough right now. It's really rough right now for the Magic. And really, really rough to see, to think what happens next or what to get out of this. So very, very simply, the Magic are still playing hard. That the effort level's there. It doesn't have to be precise. Magic turned the ball over a ton in this game. Hornets took advantage of every mistake. They scored 27 fast break points to the Magic's 5. Magic were just 2 of 10 on fast break opportunities. It's not about precision right now. It's just about effort. Effort gets you a long way in this league, especially at this point of the year. And as long as the team is playing with some effort, and I'd like to see more defensive intensity in this final game, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that. Markelle Fultz's minutes are obviously still the most important thing going on with the team right now. He continues to play really, really well. He continues to really put on a display of everything he can do. And, it's hard not to get so excited or super duper excited about what he might accomplish or what he might do when the minute restriction is off. And when he has the opportunity to play a full complement. It's going to be really, really exciting to see him out there. And I think that's going to be one of the big mysteries of the offseason is just how good is Markelle Fultz? Because if he plays the way that he's been playing to end this season, we'll name our fourth quarter MVP early next week. And then, of course, our full season MVP will come shortly after that. I would honestly say Markelle Fultz is – I haven't looked at the numbers to confirm, but, spoiler alert, Markelle Fultz is going to be the MVP of the fourth quarter of the season. He has just been really, really good and provided a lot of hope for this Magic team moving forward. Jalen Suggs came back. The dude plays so hard, did some really good defensive things throughout the game. Offense still has all the problems that we know that he has, but he was out there making plays. He looked like he tweaked his ankle or tweaked something early in the game within the first couple possessions of the game. And he was still playing on it. He was still diving after loose balls. He was still going at it. He was waving the bench off, trying to say, I can keep playing. I can keep playing. This dude is a gamer. And you like seeing that. 21 win team, guy just coming back from injury. Everyone knows the offseason is more important. It's good to see him play with that kind of effort and that kind of intensity and that kind of edge to him. That's one of the things we really like about Jalen Suggs. The football mentality that he can play through anything, that's going to serve him well when the games actually matter. Right now, it's just like, yeah, you can ease off that throttle, Jalen. We don't need you to go crazy. The moment everyone was talking about in this game was the fight or the scrum that happened in the fourth quarter. About 7.5, 8 minutes to play in the fourth quarter. RJ Hampton goes up for a layup. Jalen McDaniels kind of wraps him up. The two have a little bit, are talking to each other a little bit. Hampton was talking a lot during this game. A lot of frustration just finally bubbling over. The two are a little slow to separate. Robin Lopez jumped in to try and separate them. Montrezl Harrell jumped in to try and separate them. Words were exchanged. Robin Lopez was pointing at Harrell. Everyone started jumping in. Admiral Schofield jumped in, started shouting some words at McDaniels, and I think at Kelly Oubre, and at Montrezl Harrell. And eventually everyone was sorted out. Everyone was separated. All 10 players on the floor were involved in it somehow. And Robin Lopez and Admiral Schofield were both ejected for being escalators of the situation, as was Montrezl Harrell. To some extent, yeah, it's good to see the team fighting. It's good to see the team frustrated, but we don't really need any of that. It's the time of the year to, not go through the motions, but don't do anything stupid here, guys. Don't do anything stupid. Like I said, there's just not a lot to take from this game. Orlando turned the ball over a ton. They couldn't make shots to keep up with Charlotte. Their defense really wasn't on point. And Orlando was down 20 at halftime. It was a close game in the first quarter, but they were down 20 at halftime. They never really got back. They got it down to 12 right off the bat in the second half. And then Charlotte extended the lead back out. And that was the game, because Orlando just doesn't have the firepower to keep up right now, or the defensive intensity to keep up right now. So the Magic fall to the Charlotte Hornets 128-101 in their final road game of the season. They'll close the season out Sunday against the Miami Heat at the Amway Center. We'll go through the box score, talk a little bit about Chuma Okeke and how he has developed this season coming up here in just a moment. But first, I previewed it earlier, but betonline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, including this week's Masters Championships, odds, podcasts, and reviews for all the different leagues this season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. We want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic your first listen every day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Like I said, not a lot to take from this game. A 128-101 loss to the Charlotte Hornets. It very much feels like the Magic are playing out the string here. There's not a lot of defensive intensity, which again is supposed to be this team's calling card. But looking at their roster, there's not a lot of great defenders. Mo Bamba left the game in the first quarter with an ankle injury with a sprained ankle. That really hurt the Magic's defensive potential. Mo Wagner and Robin Lopez are fine for what they are, but they are what they are. There's just no getting around that. So it was just it was just a game. Like it was just a game. It just kind of happened. So let's run through the box score real fast, go through some of the better performances, kind of see if there's anything else we can glean from this. We're going to talk more about Chuma Okeke. 20 points, 8 for 15 shooting, 4 for 11 from deep, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. Just filling up the stat sheet. That's what he does. This is really Chuma at his best. Again, you'd like to see the 3-point percentage a little bit better. The field goal percentage is certainly fine. Chuma has gone through some nice, has some weird ups and downs this season. So we'll talk more about that coming up here in just a moment. Mo Wagner, 17 points, 6 for 10 shooting, 3 assists, 5 rebounds. Mo does what Mo does. Again, I've really come to appreciate Mo Wagner. He was not involved in the brouhaha in the fourth quarter. He's not even on the floor. So that was interesting. I've been really impressed with Mo Wagner. He kind of fills in gaps. Again, I don't think you want to overuse him. Magic played him 28 minutes in this game. That's usually going to put you in a hole and lead you to trouble. I think Mo Wagner's kind of proven that in small doses he can be really effective, and he can have those spurt games that really help you out. Would not surprise me if the Magic kind of slot him as the third center next year in that Robin Lopez role. I honestly expect him back at this point. Again, Magic just not getting a ton of scoring here. 12 points from Markelle Fultz, 6 for 11 shooting, 0 for 1 from deep, 24 minutes for 23-37, so about 24 minutes from him. 5 rebounds, 6 assists. The only blemish on his record is 4 turnovers. Fultz is really just getting wherever he wants on the floor right now, and it feels like his jumper just comes in spurts where he just hits a ton of shots in a row, and you could just kind of feel that energy from him, that he really feels like he's going to make a big leap, or he's going to make a big shot, or just hit a couple shots in a row. Really crafty around the basket. We know that about him. He's really kind of found his groove this season. The 4 turnovers are really the only blemish. The Magic is kind of throwing the ball around. They did turn the ball over 16 times for 15 points. The turnovers weren't really what killed them, but it kind of kept their offense from getting going and kept their offense from finding a good rhythm, especially in that second quarter. The Magic had 4 turnovers in the second quarter, leads to only 2 points, but they shoot 30.8% from the floor. So again, I think the turnovers were a product of the frustration that the Magic had that they weren't able to hit shots. They weren't able to hit shots because they're trying to make up for some of the turnovers and mistakes that they were making. So, again, played a role in this game for sure, but Magic were really good in Fultz's minutes. They're still the best minutes the Magic play all game long when Fultz is out there. Jalen Suggs, only 5 points, 2 for 6 shooting. He plays only 16 minutes in this game, 3 assists, 2 steals for him. So he does some good things. Jumpers obviously got to come around a little bit for him. Got to be a little bit smarter finishing around the basket, but those are problems that we've known about for Suggs for a while. RJ Hampton, 12 points, 5 for 13 shooting, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 turnovers. He filled the stat sheet. Again, he is more than capable of filling a stat sheet when you give him the chance like that. The issue is you don't want to give RJ Hampton kind of free reign to seek out shots. And honestly, it feels like this has been the biggest struggle for the Magic all year long, is getting RJ Hampton to understand that his role is going to be on defense. His role is going to be as a spot-up shooter and cutter. It's not going to necessarily be as the guy attacking the basket. Games like this are probably detrimental to him because it gives him free reign to play kind of against the way that the Magic need him to play, or the way that's going to eventually keep him in the league. Hampton's a really good player. He's a really talented player. You can see all that talent out on the floor. You can see all that potential out on the floor. It's just understanding how to rein him in a little bit, or it's him understanding what is best for his team and how he can best play to support and help his team win. That's certainly the biggest challenge with RJ Hampton. And I think one thing that's going to have to come out of this offseason for him is he's going to have to come out a better shooter for sure. He's got to come out a better decision maker off the dribble if that's how he wants to play. But the Magic really have to really carefully define his role. I think they've done a really good job throughout this season kind of doing that for him and trying to limit his time playing point guard or time as the lead ball handler. Though getting around at this game, you got both Markelle Fultz and Jalen Suggs on a minute restriction. Markelle can only play 24 minutes. Jalen can play only 16. They're usually playing on the floor together because the Magic want to see that. That's going to force RJ Hampton into this playmaking role. And, again, Magic were minus 34 with RJ Hampton on the floor. That's the reason why. That's not necessarily a knock on RJ Hampton, but RJ's got a lot of work to do if he wants to be kind of that lead ball handler. Ignaz Brazdeikis and Devin Kennedy each scored 12. Kennedy 4 for 12 shooting. Brazdeikis 4 for 15. Every player off the Magic's bench, after they had a really good game on Tuesday against Cleveland, every player off the Magic's bench was at least minus 20 on the floor. So, the bench got blown out. The starters, Mo Bamba was plus 4. He played only 4.5 minutes before he left with an ankle injury. Chuma Okeke plus 6. Mo Wagner minus 1. Jalen Suggs minus 7. Markelle Fultz minus 3. You may not be winning a game with those kind of plus-minus splits, but you ain't getting blown out if your plus-minus splits are that low. The Magic got blown out because their bench was terrible. Again, you look at the plus-minus for the Hornets. Kelly Oubre was plus 41 in scoring 16 points. Montrezl Harrell was plus 31. He scored 14 points. Jalen McDaniels plus 31, scoring 6 points. So that's kind of the split there. LaMelo Ball with 26 points, 10 for 21 shooting, 4 for 10 from deep. He had 9 assists, 8 rebounds. Terry Rozier, 22 points for the Hornets. Charlotte shoots 52.2% from floor, 12 for 34 from beyond the arc. Again, this game just gets away from the Magic in the second quarter. They're outscored 40-22, and then they're outscored 31-19 in the fourth quarter, the 2 quarters that you would expect the bench to be the main player. And of course, the Magic are kind of packing it in anyway. The Charlotte Hornets defeat the Orlando Magic 127-101. We'll chat a little bit about Chuma Okeke's game and how he's developing and the kind of weird season that he had coming up in just a moment. But first, it is April. Seems like it's well past time to be thinking about your New Year's resolutions, but I'm telling you, it's not too late. It's not too late to eat better. It's not too late to work out. I'm telling myself this as much as anyone else. It's not too late. Get back on that horse and get the boost and support you need with a healthy snack and a healthy protein bar alternative. That's what Built Bar is. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. You need that chocolate fix. We all do. There's no shame in it. Get the chocolate fix with a dose of protein too. All Built Bars are covered in 1% real chocolate. They're low calorie, high protein. So replace your candy bars, replace your snack bars, replace your heavy protein bars with Built Bars. You will not regret it. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. They come in great flavors like mint brownie, coconut almond, and there's new flavors every month. I think I saw the brownie batter flavor is back. That is a delicious one. It is a fan favorite. So check it out today at built.com. Go to built.com and use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. Chuma Okeke has had a really kind of strange season in a lot of ways. It's been a year where he has been both extremely enticing, extremely exciting, and extremely cold and unable to get shots to go in. Chuma Okeke was a rookie that everyone was really excited about for long stretches last year. I had a lot of the stat nerds excited about him too. The analytics people excited about him too. But at the same time, there was still a lot to be desired and a lot of consistency that needed to be found. Okeke, by the numbers, improved in many areas. Averaged 8.4 points per game, 4.9 rebounds per game, and roughly the same minutes. He actually played fewer minutes per game this year than he did last year. He was certainly a little bit more aggressive, willing to take a few more shots, and certainly taking a ton more threes. But all of his efficiency splits and shooting numbers went down. Shot 36.9% from floor, 31.3% from beyond the arc, and a 46.9% effective field goal percentage. They're shooting 84.6% from the foul line, but largely used exclusively as a three-point shooter. As several people have noted, the Magic did not put him in the post very often. That's where he was really effective last year. That just wasn't part of the Magic's plans for him this year. They want him to be more of a spot-up shooter and more of a shooting threat. The three-point shooting was obviously way up and down all season long. He went through a stretch where he made a ton, went through a stretch where he couldn't hit any, and it was something that's been chronicled throughout the course of the season. But really, Okeke's value was seen really very similar to where it was in Thursday's game. He is a really good defender. He will get his hand on the ball. He will get a lot of deflections and get a lot of steals and really disrupt things. And kind of his even-keeled nature really helps him kind of stay in the game, even if things aren't going right or he's not hitting shots. This guy is not going to dwell on too much. He's just going to kind of keep chugging along. And everyone on the Magic loves him. Everyone loves this dude. And it's just a matter of, we've kind of said it all year, just kind of getting him to break out of his shell and understand who he can be. Okeke's still got work to do, obviously. He's got to improve dramatically as a three-point shooter. 31% three-point shooting year, this kind of slump set he went through this year. That's not going to cut it for the role the Magic put him in this season, and B, not going to cut it for a team that has a lot of bigs and a lot of guys that play his position. There's going to be some guys squeezed out here. The Magic have so many young players. Some of them are not going to be able to play, and it's going to be an issue for this team moving forward as they continue this part of their rebuild. But Okeke seems game to make these improvements and seems game to understand where he still needs to grow and where he still needs to go as a player. He knows that defense is still his ultimate calling card, and defense is ultimately what's going to keep him on the floor, even as he figures out these other parts of his game. We'll review Okeke's season a little bit more in detail once the season ends. Of course, we'll do our player evaluation series, but Okeke has had a rough season in a lot of ways, just very up and down with some wild swings in them. And that's going to be the part those are going to be the edges that he has to smooth out. Consistency is a big deal in this league. Being able to be counted on for the same thing every single night. I say this all the time about the regular season. The regular season is not about your best game. It's about what you can do on your worst night. What can you do consistently? What can you do what can you do well and help your team do well even on your worst nights? Because you're not going to have it every night. There's going to be bad nights. There's 82 of these things. It's hard to be really good for 82 games. There's very few players that can honestly say, I was good for 82 games or for all the games that I played. Okeke is, again, struggled to find that consistency. There's been enough to make us all believe. There's been enough to make us see this kid has something that's worth investing in, that's worth continuing to develop. But it's, coming up on year 3 now. It's time to start seeing some patterns harden. It's time to start seeing some consistency develop so that you know what you're counting on him moving forward. Okeke is going to be around the team next year. Don't worry about that. I wouldn't worry too much about that. And he's going to improve. That's going to be the big thing for him. He's going to need a healthy off season and a healthy training camp, which he did not get this year. We didn't see him at Summer League, obviously, last year. The reasons why are not particularly clear, but we do know that he dealt with an injury throughout all of training camp, and that slowed him down a ton. Health has been a big issue for Chuma Okeke. Some of that is because, yes, he is a defender. Defenders tend to get kind of grimy and dirty sometimes, and they sometimes take knocks and injuries. But Okeke has had these crazy ups and downs, these crazy swings, and now it's just about finding his middle. That's going to be the key for him next season, to find his middle. Like I said, it's about consistency right now for him, and that's continuing to be the big issue chasing this young player. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You can always find us on Twitter at Locked On Magic. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the places on the podcast to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can find me on Twitter at PhilipR_MD. And for the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. Now that you're done listening to us, make your second listen Locked On NBA. Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. That's going to do it for me. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll be back Monday to recap the Orlando Magic's final game against the Miami Heat. We'll begin our season recap. Probably that night, I'll probably have some thoughts on the season as a whole. But we will talk more about the whole season next week. We'll start our season recap stuff, start looking ahead a little bit to the draft as well. The NBA draft lottery is May 17th. So a lot still to do, a lot still to talk about here on Locked On Magic, but we are nearing the end of the season. And so we'll be able to kind of take a step back and reflect on a few things as the season comes to a close. But until then, enjoy Fan Appreciation Night on Sunday. Don't let the Heat fans drown us out on our last night to celebrate this team. And to get excited about what the future holds for the Orlando Magic. Until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.